Hey, I'd like to touch base with you on, the slap heard around the world. I know some people will roll their eyes as soon as I say that, but you are a professional comedian. You do stand-ups, you curate and create jokes, and because of that, I feel like we can kind of look to you and use you as a bit of an expert in at least the Chris Rock part of this conversation. Before we do that, though, I want to play a couple of now there are dozens. If you get on YouTube and put comedians response to Will Smith, you get dozens of incredibly high profile comedians sharing their thoughts around what they have. This is one of the guys I follow quite closely, Tom Segura. I love him. I love his podcast with him and Bert Kreischer. It comes out every Tuesday. I listen to it religiously. He went on the show, the Pat McAfee show. I don't know too much about Pat McAfee, but this was his response immediately. And the thing I love about it is, it takes a comedian, Jeremy, to be brutally honest. And I'll only play about 30 seconds of this, but have a listen.
Where are you at? New York?
I'm in New York. I'm wearing this hat because my alopecia's acting up.
Jesus. Okay, Tom. I'm happy you're joining us because I've been seeing you on the internet. Has this become a thing, huh? Is this what Will Smith did? Do you feel like was an attack on all comedians and maybe setting a precedent for what you can do, or jokes being not accepted in the right way?
Fuck that cuck. Let me tell you this, man.
All right.
The idea that you're entitled ass things because your feelings are hurt, you get to assault one of the all-time greats because you fucking feel, and then the cowards, the spineless cowards that are in Hollywood, in comedy. We have a list going of these fucking guys. Anybody who did not stand up and say some shit for Chris Rock, we're gonna ruin your fucking life. I just want you.
So there you go. there's a pretty brutal and honest response from Tom. And I'll just say, I'm gonna play one more part of his because he's on tour at the moment, and this is how he started his show, the first show he did after the incident. Have a listen to what he says to, and there's words that come up. If you can't quite hear it, you can read along with it.
Listen, you might hear some things that you don't like. And you will stay in your fucking seat.
We'll leave it there. He goes on to talk about he's not a good fighter, but if you come on stage, he'll bite your nose off. I mean, I find him very funny. So, and it appears that there are some comedians, and I think about, I'm not sure, is Tiffany Haddish a comedian, a stand-up, or just an actress working in comedy world? Because she's being pulled over the grate by comedians because of her support of Will Smith's actions. I'm not sure where she sits in the world of comedy, but you sit front and center with the mic on the stage, Jeremy. I'd love to get your thoughts around the whole thing, because we haven't talked to a comedian about that aspect of it yet.
Yeah, well, for a start, I'd just like to mention, I don't know if you know, Chris Rock's first line for his first show, which was like 2 days later in Boston, was, "So, hey, how was your weekend?"
Yeah, how was your weekend?
Yeah. Look, I kind of agree. I know comedians, it hasn't happened to me, but I know comedians who have been attacked.
Wow.
I know a comedian who's had a gun pulled on him in a Texas comedy club for saying something. I mean, perhaps within the industry, the most famous example is Jim Jeffries, who was assaulted at the Comedy Store. I can't recall if it was in London or Manchester. I believe it was in Manchester, and it was captured on video. It went viral, and bizarrely, it really kickstarted Jim's career. Because people and the same thing, tickets for Chris Rock's tour have gone up in price. I'm not saying in any way that this was a stunt. But yeah, no, I mean, there's it's a really tough one. I mean, I don't know what Will Smith was thinking. I don't think it was a great joke. But I also don't think it was the most offensive joke that I've heard on a telecast, especially at an award show. And I don't know what Will Smith was thinking. I mean, possibly the most high-profile place you could possibly assault somebody is on live TV at the Oscars. But taking it away from that, in a general sense, you do get people who get angry. I mean, and that's part of comedy. I mean, you can't go into comedy expecting to please everybody all the time. That's actually not fair. Some comedians do that, and they bore the shit out of me. But I've been stared down. I've had people be aggressive from the audience. I've never had actually anybody come up on the stage. And it does set a dangerous precedent if people suddenly think that's okay. It goes back to what we were talking about with Dylan earlier about the sheriff's movement. Is most people like you and I are going to be looking at this and discussing it in a kind of, offhand, what a bizarre moment in history that was, television history. There may well be somebody out there who thinks suddenly this is okay to assault a comic because you don't like something he or she says. And that's a dangerous thing. I mean, we've seen it with musicians. I mean, we've seen musicians be killed because people don't like something they've done. I mean, John Lennon is a classic example. Dimebag Darrell from Pantera.
On stage.
He was on stage, I believe. Comedy is subjective, and it's not going to please everybody all the time. And if you're offended by something, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Feel free to shout out. Feel free to walk out. Feel free to ask for your money back. Feel free to write an angry email or post on Facebook. Do that. But there's a line, and it's the same line. The line isn't different for comedians than it is for anybody else in the street. I mean, if I'm walking down the street wearing a T-shirt that you find offensive, you have every right to come up and have a word to me about it. But if you walk up and punch me in the face, that's assault.
Yeah, you're going to jail.
Well, you're going to get charged, or you potentially could get charged. Chris Rock has decided not to press charges. The Academy. I agree with Tom Segura. I mean, one of the things I did find stunning about that, I didn't watch it live, but I watched the various things later, is that, what was it, less than an hour later, Will Smith wins Best Actor, and suddenly all is forgiven, and he gets the standing ovation. I found that really bizarre. I mean, you saw the reaction shots from people in the audience. When Mel Gibson looked shocked at what just happened, you did something wrong, okay? When he's got a look on his face going, not even I have pulled some kind of stunt like that.
Hey, let me just wrap up with one thing. I didn't have this plan to talk about this morning, but just because we're talking about it,
sure.
I think the most damning criticism of Will Smith has probably come from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, that's a brilliant article. Yeah.
Now, for people who don't know who he is, I disown you. No, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the leading NBA scorer in history. He's going to be overtaken by LeBron at some stage, but at the moment, he's scored more points in professional basketball in America than anyone else. He's won all sorts of championships. He was a part of that Lakers dynasty in the 80s with Magic Johnson. And he's now kind of turned into, he used to be Lou Alcindor, and he converted to Islam and changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And he's now kind of turned into this wise sage in America, speaking to especially issues around Black culture in America.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read one part of this, because I thought if I was Will Smith and I read this, I would be devastated. This would be the thing that I think would be most devastating. So first, if you don't know Will Smith, he's a huge basketball fan. And he's actually, when he was on the Fresh Prince, I think there's a photo here, he had right there.
Kareem,
so there's Kareem on Fresh Prince with Will Smith. So this is what, and you think about Will Smith being an example to his community, an example to younger people, an example in society. This paragraph here in particular, and I will read it out. Kareem says, the Black community also takes a direct hit from Smith. One of the main talking points from those supporting the systemic racism in America is characterizing Blacks as more prone to violence and less able to control their emotions. Smith just gave comfort to the enemy by providing them with the perfect optics they were dreaming of. Fox News host Janine Pirro wasted no time going full metal jacket racist by declaring the Oscars were, quote, not the hood. What would she have said if Brad Pitt slapped Ricky Gervais? This isn't Radio Drive. Many will be invigorated to continue their campaign to marginalize African Americans and others through voter suppression campaigns. I mean, I read that and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, people look him up. His writing is terrific. He used to be a regular columnist in Time magazine. He possibly still is. I used to subscribe. I don't anymore. But he's an incredibly well thought through writer. Another point of this, which somebody pointed out, I'm not a boxing fan, but somebody pointed out that in boxing terms, Will Smith is at least 3 weight divisions bigger than Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Chris Rock is actually a really small guy. He's a little fella. Will Smith is not. So just in those terms at all, Yeah, it was a shocking moment. I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of gets lost in the fact that there's been all the jokes about it, and I made a joke at the time that Kanye West must be just sitting there going, "Finally, I'm not the go-to meme from awards ceremonies anymore."
Wait till today though. He's up for best album in the
Oh,
next
is he?
3 or
Oh,
4 hours.
great!
Let's see.
Fantastic.
Let's see what happens today.
But taking all of that aside, I mean, it was a shocking moment. It was, it was an assault on live television, and the comedy side of it. I mean, as a comedian, it was. I completely agree with Tom Segura. I mean, it doesn't really matter the fact that Chris Rock is one of the greats, and he is. But the fact that this may open, what worries me the most is that this might open the door for somebody at an open mic gig anywhere in the world. I mean, it could happen. There's an open mic gig that runs down the road from my house, and there are comedians who get up there doing their third or fourth gig, and there's a natural inclination for some certain comedians, particularly when they're first starting out, to be as offensive as possible. They think that's what comedy is. It's a really difficult thing, and people tend to learn, but you're not going to learn that if you get punched in the face. That worries me slightly. Is I'm not so worried about not to take away anything from Chris Rock, but from one millionaire punching another millionaire. What I'm worried about is some thug in a bar suddenly taking offense to something that some 18-year-old kid says on stage, because that punch, I mean, not to over dramatize this, but we've all seen what one punch can do. The coward punch, as they call it in Australia. We've seen what can happen. So it was a shocking moment. And again, I just do not know what Will Smith was thinking. I don't understand.